Closed captioning of This Week in Northern California is made possible by the Fireman's Fund Foundation.
I'm Belva Davis, reporting from the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, a key state for President Obama's re-election.
Madam Chairwoman, delegates, I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
The Democrats came out swinging this week with their platform asking for 4 more years in the White House to finish what they've started.
And under the leadership of President Obama, we will move forward.
Californians played a major role.
Our next speaker will place before you that nomination.
Plus, a one-on-one conversation with California Attorney General Kamala Harris, a rising star who made an impression on the national stage.
I am so proud, as a daughter of California, to represent California on issues like what we should get in terms of the foreclosure crisis, on issues like what we're doing around technology and privacy, on so many other issues. And so that's what I'm focused on.
Coming up next. Hello, I'm Belva Davis, and welcome to this special edition of This Week in Northern California. As we continue our convention coverage, things are winding down here in Charlotte, where Democrats gathered to make their case to re-elect President Obama. Throughout the week, I heard from many California delegates about what a second Obama term would mean to them and the country.
If you believe in a country where everyone gets a fair shot and everyone does their fair share and everyone plays by the same rules, then I need you to vote this November.
Last night, as the president made his case for re-election, some of his most raucous support came from the California delegation. And throughout the week, California Democrats took center stage in the proceedings. Further evidence of the state's strong influence on the party's direction.
We are a big tent party of inclusion, and our platform speaks to the aspirations of all.
California has one of the most diverse and largest delegations here. 609 votes, about 10% of the total number of votes cast. Though the president is expected to sweep the overwhelmingly blue state in November, delegates and party officials like San Francisco Mayor Ed Lee say there's no room for complacency.
Oh gosh, we have a lot to worry about. I mean, this is such a critical election. And if we don't get President Obama reelected, we're in for some really hot water. There's so much of our economy tied with what the federal government does or doesn't do.
Voter ID laws passed in Republican-led swing states are of concern to Oakland Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
These voter suppression laws, unfortunately, are on the books in 36 states. We can't get them off the books. Thank goodness the Supreme Court or the courts are overturning some of these. But what we're doing is we're working to make sure people know what they have to do, get people to the polls. We know what this is about. This is by keeping minorities, young people, senior citizens home, and they're the base for the Democratic Party for the president.
Another base that could help tilt the election in favor of Barack Obama is the youth vote, says Jennifer Longley, president of California Young Democrats.
There are 644 youth delegates here at the DNC. 98 of them, 15.2%, are from California. We're really excited about that. And we're excited to go out, knock on doors, and get people to vote Obama plus. So vote for Obama, vote for Proposition 30. Because if not, student loans and tuition's going to go up even more.
Earlier in the week, delegates joined local Charlotte residents to help kick off the convention with a traditional Labor Day parade. It was an opportunity for Democrats to draw attention to their support for organized labor in this right-to-work state. Tim Paulson, is labor chair for the California Democratic Party.
We're talking about workers' rights, we're talking about good wages, we're talking about pensions, we're talking about Medicare and Medi-Cal and Social Security. We are here to make sure that the entire country is fired up about it. And there is a great contingent of labor here. We're probably about 20% of the entire delegation across the country. And we are going to continue to, do the fight for, worker justice.
Joining the fight were teachers' unions as well.
Our test scores continue to go up in spite of all the cuts that we've experienced in education and the loss of 30,000 educators over the last few years. And we're excited about working to get the House back in Democratic hands so we can stop the obstructionism that we've been seeing over the last couple of years.
Senator Dianne Feinstein echoed the claim that Republicans are squarely to blame for the gridlock in Congress.
And what they have decided to do is simply oppose this president, not cooperate. In no way, shape, or form do they cooperate. And it's a huge mistake, I think, because, what goes around comes around. And to put the Senate in a position of just where one party is just recalcitrant is not the right way to go. It doesn't make the government work, it creates stasis.
We all stand together in our drive for 25 seats to win back the House for the Democrats.
Redistricting and newly opened seats have led to competitive races for many of those House seats, with a large number in California. Delegate Walter Johnson is from Kings County, where the newly drawn 21st Congressional District is a hotly contested race.
We're going to keep pounding the pavement, keep calling, knocking on doors, and do our part to get people out. We will not stop. Our intent is to turn that red community blue again.
Last week, we reported on Republican sentiment that California is essentially a failed state. This week, Democrats, including Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, fired back.
Well, it's preposterous, and it doesn't bear out on the facts. I mean, we're $1.9 trillion a year economy, the world's 9th largest.
Manufacturing is up in jobs. The service industry is up in jobs.
For certain, San Francisco has risen up very quickly. We're the 3rd lowest unemployment rate in the state of California, but we're doing it because we got a good start. President Obama's programs, particularly his American Recovery Act, was essential to our recovery.
Now, Democrats just need to convince voters that re-electing President Obama is essential to continuing a path to economic recovery.
And as we work through the issues of debt and entitlement and work through these budget deficits, that wall of debt, then we can get back to the future business and start focusing on the engines of economic growth, which are education and infrastructure, open immigration policy, and robust research and development, the things that made California so great.
California! California!
Well, for analysis of convention highlights and California's role in this upcoming election, I'm joined by Joe Garofoli from the San Francisco Chronicle, Kitty Feldy, Washington correspondent for KPCC, Southern California Public Radio, and Deborah Saunders, conservative columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle. Some exciting times. Do you think, or did, the Democrats deliver on bringing energy to President Obama's bid for re-election?
I think Bill Clinton was definitely the star of the week. He even outshouted the president, I think, with his speech this week. I think Michelle Obama had a better speech this week. The president's speech last night was, good, but it's hard when he's asking for more time. And it's almost like an apologetic speech in some way.
Well, let's talk about 4 years ago when we were in Denver, and Barack Obama gave this amazing speech, and he had the Greek columns behind him, and people were stomping their feet, and he was the one. He's not the one anymore. No. What we had was, Bill Clinton was the one, Michelle Obama was the one, or them. Barack Obama just didn't have the oomph that he had before.
And it's also impossible to recreate the historical
I
circumstances.
was going to ask you, after 4 years of hearing this president on the air repeatedly delivering almost the same message. I mean, Americans get bored after 10 seconds.
Well, and quite frankly, we're still stuck in a recession. I mean, the jobs numbers came out, and we're still not putting enough folks back to work, and that's one of the things he promised 4 years ago.
Well, let's talk about the job numbers. I mean, were they good or were they bad?
They were disappointing.
They were bad.
They were.
They were bad.
Tell me what bad is to the three of you.
Well, it's first of all, the raw numbers are the unemployment rate is 8.1%, which is down from what it was, but fewer people are looking for work. Only 96,000 jobs were created, which is less than was expected.
And it's the expectations. I mean, you expected after July that things weren't going to continue to rise, and they just didn't. And it's worse in California than it is nationwide.
Well, California numbers are looking up, so. I mean, this is an incremental journey, right?
But California is still third highest unemployment in the nation. And here's the thing, we are in a recovery, but we're not getting the benefits of the recovery. And we know that a lot of companies are sitting on their capital, they're not hiring, they're afraid. And Barack Obama has done nothing to quell that anxiety, nothing to really tell the public sector, it's safe now, you can start hiring. And when you see these job numbers, it only, again, sort of punctuates the fact that he's just not moving this country the way it needs to be moved.
Well, can we talk about this convention?
Yes.
And see if what you're saying relates to what was in the room for the last 3 days?
I want to go back to Clinton for one moment, and what the California delegates told me, people who are on, these are conventions full of grassroots organizers, and what they said to me was, Bill Clinton gave me the words to use. One woman literally told me, who runs a phone bank, or she's a volunteer coordinator in Pasadena, she said, Bill Clinton gave me words to use that I can tell my volunteers when they're on the phones. Yeah. So nobody else did that.
Yeah, he articulated what the Democratic Party has been unable to do to answer back to anything the Republicans have been saying.
Now, the Democrats are saying this was a start point. I didn't meet anybody who said that the messages that we heard in that auditorium were what Americans had been saying up to now. One group, though, that seemed absolutely satisfied was the gay community.
Oh, yes.
And they were repeatedly called to the front. What about that move on behalf of this president to bring them into community and their response to it?
Well, there may be a backlash, right, Joe?
Well, there's in the hall and in the gay community, it was huge. It was a big week for folks and gay folks. For the first time, the Democratic Party platform endorsed same-sex marriage, which was the first in their platform. But I got to North Carolina a couple days early, and I went to a conservative black church, and the folks there who were Obama supporters 4 years ago, they're saying, well, you know what? I'm really not for gay marriage. I'm not going to vote. They're not going to vote for Romney, but they're just not. People were talking about leaving that blank. This could hurt them in some swing states. Already, anti-same-sex marriage advocates are organizing against them on this.
And North Carolina, I mean, I have to say, it's gutsy for the Democrats to do what they're doing here. North Carolina basically voted against same-sex marriage. The next day, the president came out for it. He won the state by a mere 14,000 votes. Yeah. This is risky what he's doing, and a number of these swing states have banned same-sex marriage from their state constitutions. This is a gutsy move. Now, it could be a gutsy move that kills the Democrats and chances for the White House, but he's definitely decided he's going to put his stake on this, and he's going to win or lose by it.
Well, and quite frankly, it's been a real good fundraising move. You know, you've had a lot of gay activists who have been sitting on their hands and their wallets for months now. And once the president said that, you know, this is what was going to be going forward,
well, the danger
suddenly
zones,
folks started giving money.
The danger zone used to be that the Democrats were too liberal and that therefore they were going to lose the rest of America. What did you feel at this convention in terms of the liberals having their say? Have you heard any complaints that things didn't move far enough, or they moved too far?
Well, I think inside the hall, this is generally a progressive group, a very liberal group, so they're happy with things. But there was sort of the big fumble this week was when the platform didn't include the word God. Republicans called that out, and it also removed the party's position supporting Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. At the last minute, they had to sort of ram that back in, and we got to see that on television. And it was a very ugly, it was a voice vote. You know, the ayes have it, the nays have it, blah, blah, blah. It was terrible, and it was a bad moment
But did it allow Obama to show leadership here? Because he's the one that said, I want this changed.
Antonio Villaraigosa served as the enforcer here, because when he gave the voice vote, it was clear that more people were against it at first than for it, and he just basically ignored them. He kept having them vote. He had them vote again, and then the third time he said, "Oh, it passes," even though it was about the same. He basically was the enforcer. I saw him yesterday, and he said, well, I listened to everybody. Everybody had a voice because they had 10 minutes to object, and nobody did.
Well, now I want to talk about the way this happened, though, because I talked to delegates yesterday morning who did not even hear about this until the voice vote was called for. One person told me they were in the ladies' room. I spoke with people from the Muslim caucus, and they also said, we didn't hear about it at all. Half of our folks weren't even in the seats because they did it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think as much as anything, Democrats were outraged about the process. And I heard one GOP pundit tell me that, yeah, we would have done it too at the GOP, but we would have done it after midnight when no one was watching.
Well, I talked to Michael Yaki, who's a former San Francisco supervisor. He ran the Democrats' platform in 2008. He said this is a huge fumble. It's an unforced error. First of all, the rules of platform making is do no harm. Don't have a major embarrassment like this. And the second rule is look back at the previous platforms and hew closely to the language there, because you don't want to make any big strides like this, especially 60 days from the election.
And one more strike. I'm sorry, Bill, but one more strike on that rules thing, which is that Villaraigosa was supposed to be the rising star, sort of being hinted that perhaps he was running for VP because he's been hitting all the swing states on behalf of Obama. This video is going to follow him the next 4 years.
It's a bad optics for Tony V.
Well, you're talking about a stumble on platform. The Republicans had their own in terms of women and women's right to choose. Which one of those is going to be more popular?
I don't know if that they consider that a fumble, though.
They're pro-life. Maybe it's not. It was a fumble to those in this hall here in Charlotte. Yeah. So when we talk about that, let's move to comparing the two. You're all there for both of them. You're in Tampa, you're here.
I wasn't in Tampa. My colleague Frank Stoltz was, but I did watch on television.
Okay. Well, anyway, so let's just do a little comparing from what messages that got out, clarification of messages or enthusiasm that's coming from this. What can we expect?
I went to both.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think what we've learned from both parties is that they're not playing to the middle; they're playing to their bases.
Right.
And the Republicans, they talked a message for small business owners, and they did what they wanted to do. Barack Obama did what he wanted to do, the Democrats. They're reaching to the base. I don't know what they're going to do for the middle, because that really is where the battle is. So they want to energize people. They want to make sure that people turn out and vote.
And that's the key. That's going to be the key.
It is going to be the key, but that's sort of a sad thing, because it means that the country moves further to the right, or further to the left. And there's if anybody is hoping that we'll have more comedy, I can assure you that these conventions do not give one the sense that could happen.
We didn't mention the one thing that every pundit that I read said that these were some of the best speeches they'd ever heard at a convention. You argue with that?
I would say two of them were. I think Michelle Obama's was very strong. I mean, she came across as the mom next door, as the neighbor you want to have a cup of coffee with. It's just like a real person, and that's what delegates say. Yeah, and Bill Clinton's we mentioned earlier.
And so. Yeah, I would have to say there were some amazing speeches.
And I have to say, Paul Ryan's speech, I wasn't there in the hall, but I watched it on television. It was a really good speech. I mean, I know everybody was complaining about it. But he was good.
That's the only one, right, Joe? You can do a fact check on that one.
You could spend a week doing fact checks on both these conventions.
But he did what Clinton did. He put in understandable language what the Republicans were trying to say.
Now, and then he got panned for it, people saying he was too wonky. But I thought he did a good job on that. I have to agree.
Okay, that's why we invite you here, for divergent opinions. Well, earlier I had a chance to talk with California Attorney General Kamala Harris, and she's seen as a rising star in the party, someone who could eventually run for governor of California. Her primetime speech on Wednesday was highly anticipated. She talked about her efforts to help those facing home foreclosures.
President Obama stood with me and 48 other attorneys general in taking on the banks and winning $25 billion for struggling homeowners. That's leadership. That's what President Obama did. And that's why we need to give him another 4 years.
Well, first of all, let me welcome you to the program. We're really delighted you took time to be with us. In your spot on the stage at this convention,
Yes.
you talked about your mom, you talked about the home mortgage crisis, the $26 billion settlement. Has any of that money really gotten to people yet?
Oh, absolutely. You know, part of our role in the national mortgage settlement was to, obviously, the primary role was to advocate for the needs of California. And as a result, we were able to bring $18 billion back to California. I decided that in addition to what happened with the national settlement, which was one monitor for the entire country, I was going to appoint one for California because we are so big. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that we get everything that we deserve to receive and that we bargain to receive. The homeowners need relief right now. So we don't want to wait later and say, I told you so, they weren't going to perform. We wanted to monitor it on a daily basis to make sure that that relief is getting on the ground right now.
I got to bring you back to Charlotte.
Okay.
Okay. One of the big tender moments last night was when there was a video about a senior woman that fired the president up by introducing, it's called All Fired Up.
Yes.
Is this an All Fired Up group, and can they do anything when they go home to change what some had seen as a dampening of enthusiasm?
I was there in that arena last night, and I will tell you, Democrats are fired up and ready to go and ready to re-elect Barack Obama President of the United States. It's been an incredible convention. And you know, there are two audiences for the convention. There are the people in the hall who are primarily delegates, which means they're already active in the party and they've been selected by other members of the party to represent them. They're leaders. And there's the television audience, which is millions of people. Some undecided, others, you know, maybe needing a little bit of motivation. And I think that this convention provided that for both audiences. And people are very excited in the midst of understanding that the president in our country, we're facing a lot of challenges, but he's the one to take us through and move us forward.
Well, there are many themes, and they were played and they were hammered home to us. Number one, the state of women and women's health.
That's right.
That was a big theme. Many people spoke to it.
That's right.
Do you think that there's a better understanding, and does it help with the issue of what has now become Obamacare?
Let me tell you something. So I'll give you just a real life story. I go to my dentist office, the dental technician. She's cleaning my teeth, and she says, I have to tell you, I'm going to do everything I can to re-elect this president, Barack Obama. She's never said anything political to me before. You know why? Because she's pregnant, and she was trying to get an improved insurance coverage so she can get prenatal care. By 2 insurance companies, she was denied. And I said, why? She said, because when she went for her improved care, they said, well, you have a pre-existing condition. I said, what's wrong with you? She said, I'm pregnant. True story. So I think people on the ground do know it, and women have been experiencing it for so long, and now they know they actually don't have to put up with that. Women, by the very nature of physiologically, don't have to be a pre-existing condition. They now know there's another way to do health care. And since it has hit the ground, parents know that now they've already put their 26-year-old or younger on their insurance policies. Seniors know that that donut hole is now being covered, and they can have access to the prescriptions they need at an affordable rate. I think people know.
Okay, so we got to push ahead with gay marriage.
Okay.
The first president to endorse that.
That's right. He did the right thing.
A convention that we got repeated speakers.
That's right.
You think the message is out? Is that battle over with?
That battle is over.
Okay.
The president, as he said, he has evolved to a point that all people should evolve to, of understanding that there is one group in our society right now that is legally discriminated against. And you know, as a child of parents who met in the civil rights movement, I feel very strongly about that point. And I think we all do, and certainly you do, Belva, with your long history of commitment to civil rights. We've got to, you know, let's be true to the principles of our Constitution, which say all people should be treated as equal.
Finally, the role of government,
yes.
briefly. You still feel that's valid? That the government
yes,
has
and I think that is the really sad aspect of the conversation that the Republicans are trying to have in this race, which is to suggest that government is bad and that there is no role for government. You know, remember the Marshall Plan. Remember, you don't have to go back very far, and you can look very recently to know there is a very important and legitimate role for government that uplifts the lives of people in this country, and so I absolutely do believe in the nobility of public service, and the meaning and the necessity of having a government that can provide services, particularly for those in need.
You gained a national reputation, mostly over the foreclosure issue. Let's talk about you and your future. I mean, were you enthused to want to stand there where Barack Obama was last night, or were you settled just for running for governor?
Oh my goodness, Bill. You just threw that out there. Let me tell you something. I love being Attorney General of California. And and I'm halfway into my term. When I walk into my office in Sacramento or walk into a meeting with the National Association of Attorneys General from around the country, I am so proud, as a daughter of California, to represent California on issues like what we should get in terms of the foreclosure crisis, on issues like what we're doing around technology and privacy, on so many other issues. And so that's what I'm focused on. I truly believe you got to stay focused on what's in front of you. And, if everything goes well, the next thing will come.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Belva.
Well, it's been an exciting 2 weeks bringing you highlights of both the Republican and the Democratic convention. But that is all the time we have. I thank all of my guests for joining me here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Remember to visit kqed.org/thisweek for our show archives and everything that you just might have missed. Next week, San Francisco Mayor Ed Lee will be our guest. I'm Belva Davis. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Funding for coverage of the 2012 election campaign comes from the generous support of the following donors: